Welcome back to The Pulse. Remember to join our conversation via all our social media handles. It's at JoyNews on TV. Tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at the Nana Aisha. Now, a group of concerned Ghanaians made up of prominent lawyers, academics, civil society leaders, women rights advocates, and more are urging Parliament to reject the anti-homosexuality bill currently before Parliament. In a memorandum addressed to the Constitution, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, they said the bill is the very opposite of the words freedom and justice on Ghana's coat of arms. The bill, amongst others, proposes a 10-year prison sentence for homosexuals and people who support same-sex and gay rights. The Parliamentary Select Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs last month issued a request for written memoranda. Speaking at a presser earlier today, legal practitioner Koto Ampao explained why they believe the bill must not be passed.
Now, the LGBTQ plus bill currently before Parliament is a major step backward for democracy, inclusiveness, the protection of minorities and the vulnerable in our society, and of fundamental human rights in Ghana. The bill constitutes a flagrant violation of the rights and freedoms guaranteed under the Constitution, and in our view is an existential threat to our republic and its core values, as set out in the preamble, Chapter 5 on fundamental human rights, and Chapter 6 on the directive principles of state policy of the 1992 Constitution. Now, the bill violates virtually all the key fundamental freedoms guaranteed under the Constitution. Article 11, Article 15, Article 18, Article 21, Article 26, namely, the right to freedom of speech and expression, the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and belief, including academic freedom, the freedom to practice any religion and to manifest such in practice, which implies the freedom not to practice any religion, the right to assemble, including the freedom to take part in processions and demonstrations, the freedom of association and the right to organize, the right to freedom from discrimination, and the right to human dignity. In essence, the provisions of the bill are so egregious in their violation of these fundamental human rights and freedoms that it beggars belief that they could be introduced as a bill in the House of Parliament.
Let's do more on this, and joining me via Zoom for more on this conversation is Professor Kakari, who is a member of the group calling itself the Coalition of Citizens Concerned About Imminent Threat to Democracy and Human Rights. And on the other side, who will be joining me is Sam George, who is the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, who together with a few of his colleagues are initiators of this bill. Let me start with you, Professor Kakari. Why has this call become necessary?
What you played back as Mr. Koto Ampao read at our press conference this morning, namely that we think that this bill undermines all what we have fought for in this country for our democracy and our human rights.
Exactly how, Prof?
Well, that's what we have said. You know, it violates all those provisions in our Constitution. That the bill and its clauses and provisions violate all those constitutional provisions we have cited in our press conference statement and in the memorandum that we have presented to Parliament.
Well, the initiators of this bill explain that it's because we do not have, a law on LGBTQ. That is why we're having, activities of those people unregulated. So they think that there must be a law to guide their activities. You don't think so?
What activities are unregulated that these people are engaged in?
For instance, they say they are engaged in unnatural, they have sex through unnatural means, which they also quote the Constitution to not to be in support of.
No, I mean, there are sexual practices that you are talking about are already forbidden on our law books. They are there. They are there. Any homosexual sex activity and so on, termed unnatural carnal knowledge and all that, they are there. The laws are there already. So
okay.
Why should there be a new law about that?
So then it doesn't violate our Constitution because our Constitution already infringes upon that.
Our Constitution does not infringe on the rights of every citizen to be who they are, except when who they are commits crimes against the society and against other individuals in the society. The bill is about suppressing a group of minority people in our society in being who they are. If it was the question of sex acts, then there would be no need for a law. And the bill is not just about the sex acts of homosexuals or lesbians or related social tendencies. The bill is about suppressing a group of citizens, including, if you like, listen to what Mr. Kutuampa read again. Like freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assembly, and so on. If you are a citizen and you say that no, homosexuals as human beings cannot be suppressed because they are human beings, you are liable to a term of imprisonment, and so on and so forth. You cannot express those views by any means of communication in the public domain. You cannot organize a demonstration to say that, listen, homosexuals are human beings. If they want not to be discriminated against, let them also express themselves. And you can go in for many years. So the point is not just about suppressing homosexual sexual acts. It's about the suppression of a group of persons who we consider to be human beings and are citizens.
So, Prof, doesn't the bit about this practice not conforming to our culture and tradition appeal to you?
Which culture and which tradition?
Because they say it's new this is not what we are known for in Ghana. We do not support sex that is not through natural means.
I don't know. You should explain yourself better, because nobody is saying that we are. Did you listen carefully to our press conference? Is our press conference about promoting sexual activity of any kind? That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about a bill that potentially violates our human rights, violates the constitution of this democracy. That's what we are talking about.
Okay.
We are not saying people should go and become homosexuals.
Okay.
People should go and become lesbians. People should go and become this or that. That's not what we are talking about.
Okay.
We are not encouraging people to engage in any form of sexual activity. That's not the point. The point is that there is a bill proposed by some persons in Parliament and their supporters outside of Parliament that seeks to oppress a section of the society who happen to have certain social identity. And we are saying that the Constitution that frowns upon that, any act that seeks to suppress, a minority. The Constitution is not only for what the interests of the majority or what the beliefs of the majority are. It's also about protecting the rights of individuals, groups, minorities, and so on.
All right, Prof, please hold on for me there, because Sam George, who together with his colleagues initiated this bill in Parliament, has also joined us. Mr. Sam George, how does this call come across to you that the committee working on this bill must reject it because it is a threat to democracy and human rights?
Good afternoon, Aisha, and good afternoon to your listeners. It's a very uninformed position that anyone will take. Clearly, anybody taking that position has not read the bill or has read it and doesn't understand the bill. And so if anybody is telling you that this bill is taking away human rights, as they put it, challenge them. Whoever it is, I don't know who it is or who's on the line on the other side, but challenge
Professor Kakari is on.
Fantastic. Tell Professor Kakari to show you what part of the Constitution gives anybody a human right on the basis of sexual preference.
Which
the 1992 Constitution. You should tell us. Because his arguments he's making is that our bill is affecting or depriving people of human rights. First and foremost, what right is that? All rights in Ghana emanate from the 1992 Constitution.
The fundamental human rights.
Yes, ask him to show you which part of the Constitution talks about sexual preferences as a human right in Ghana. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. I'm listening.
No part of the Constitution gives that as a right. So the basis on which they are making their entire argument is flawed. And if Parliament would disregard anything, it is that memo they have sent to Parliament which says nothing, absolutely nothing of substance in relation to the bill we have put before Parliament. Because if they do not even appreciate the fact that the fundamental rights bestowed on us, first and foremost, are not absolute, and that those rights can be curtailed at any time, and that the same Constitution that bestows those rights gives the room and basis on which those rights can be curtailed. And all they want to tell you is that they are rights and those rights are being abused by a bill. First and foremost,
for instance,
there are no such rights.
Mr. Sam George, they talk about their punishment regime in that bill for people who engage in this. You think that doesn't violate 10 years?
The punishment regime is a minimum of 3 years and a maximum of 5 years or 6 years. That's for persons engaged in LGBTQ. That's the punishment. Why? They expect us to pay their monies for being engaged in LGBTQ. It's a criminal offense. Today, if you forget about our bill, it is a criminal offense under the Criminal Offences Act of Ghana, 1960, to engage in unnatural carnal knowledge. And there is a penalty prescribed for it. So why? If people are engaged in a criminal activity by law.
So Professor Kakari made the point that if there's already a law that prescribes punishment for people who engage in unnatural carnal knowledge, why then do we have to go and formulate another law?
Because in 1960, the prominent version of homosexuality you had was sodomy, or what we call gayism. At that time, people did not know, and the law did not recognize the variations of homosexuality that you have today. In fact, today, we cannot even determine what homosexuality, the full gamut of it. Because after taking almost half of our alphabet, they have added plus. They tell you they are LGBTQIAAPP plus. What does the plus mean? It is a constantly evolving group of misnormality. And so you have to have legislation that deals with it. If Professor Karikari and his cohort are so guided, they will realize that the Companies Code of Ghana was also passed in 1960. But because the business regime has changed, in 2020, the then Attorney General, Gloria Kufu, came before Parliament and we passed a new Companies Code to reflect the current shape of business. every law is reviewed after a number of years. The Criminal Offences Act, relative to the unnatural carnal knowledge or unnatural sexual behavior, is over 60. It's about 50-something years old. Since 1960, it's 51 years old. Is it wrong for us to bring it up to line or up to speed with the current trends that we face? Is that what the government of the argument, that we should not update the law? What exactly is the substance of what they are saying? Because if what they are talking about is about rights, then, like I said, they haven't read the bill or they have read it without understanding it. Because fundamentally, no rights accrue to anybody who is engaged in homosexuality today, because our current legal jurisprudence makes it criminal. Now, the only right that accrues to them as human beings is the same right that accrues to anybody that falls foul of the law. And that right is that you must not be subjected to extrajudicial treatment. You must be put before a competent court of jurisdiction where a judge presiding will determine your fate, or a jury of your own peers will determine your fate. And that is what this bill seeks to do. This bill seeks to put you before a competent court of jurisdiction for adjudication of your matter. That fundamental right to a fair hearing and a fair trial is protected by this bill. So which rights particularly are being abused?
Professor Kakari is still on.
Yeah.
Prof, how do you intend to push this agenda, especially as the bill to criminalize this practice? I mean, it's already gained a lot of momentum within the majority of the citizenry. And of course, if you heard what Sam George says, it doesn't violate any constitution right. Like
yeah, well, he's saying we don't understand their bill and that we haven't read their bill. I'm not going to argue about that. How do we hope to promote our cause? Well, Parliament requested the views of citizens on this bill, and we have presented our views. So we hope Parliament will look at it dispassionately and look at the merits of what we are proposing. Everything we are proposing is in the 30-page document. So that's the first. We are also going to undertake some public activities to express our views to the general public, hoping that we will have other members of the public to understand and agree with the position we hold, namely that the bill seeks to undermine a number of sections of our Constitution. So that's the beauty of democracy. It's a give and take. It's a discussion. It's a debate. So that's what we are going to try to do. Just as we have started, and your radio station is giving a platform to this discussion. But the moment this bill comes into law, we cannot hold a discussion like this. It will be a criminal offense for us, for instance, to be talking about this kind of issue.
Mr. Sam George, how do you intend to push this bill, especially looking at these strong personalities who are fighting it?
Aisha, these personalities do not hold a torch whatsoever to the strength of the collective will of the majority of Ghanaians. And their personal agendas will not override the desire of the majority of the Ghanaian people. Look, the very same CDD that two of the members of this coalition represent carried out an Afrobarometer research. The title of that research, in fact, is Dispatch number 46, published on the 1st of July 2021. The Afrobarometer Dispatch number 461 of 1st July 2021. If you go to page 7 of that report, on page 7 of the report, there is figure 7. Figure 7 talks about social tolerance in Ghana in 2019. Social tolerance in Ghana is extremely high. Ghanaians are tolerant of different ethnicities by 92%, tolerant of different religions by 91%, tolerant of different political parties by 90%, tolerant of immigrants and foreign workers by 74%. But these same Ghanaians are only 7% tolerant of homosexuals. It tells you what the people of Ghana want. Again, in this same CDD report, where Dr. Gajepo also, or Gajepo and co, who are part of the CDD, did this report. Figure 8, intolerance towards people of different sexual identity and orientation. In Ghana is actually number 4 in that list they do. Senegal is 98%, Liberia is 94%, Malawi is 94%, Ghana is 93% intolerant towards that. We are not ready to tolerate it. That is who we are. This is who we are. And this is their own report. This is not some judge's report. The people who have signed and authored this document you are making us discuss, this is their position. Again, if you go to the next page, the next figure there, figure 9, it tells you about the rejection of people in same-sex relationships as neighbors. It's all in there. Our people say they don't want it. But you see, I made a point in my earlier submission that Professor Karikari and his cohort have not read the bill with understanding. Because if they have, he wouldn't have made the comment he just made. He said he makes a comment and says that if the bill is passed into law, you cannot have this kind of conversation. That is incorrect. Very incorrect and uninformed. Because you see, what the bill criminalizes is the advocacy for and promotion of LGBTQ. A discussion of this matter is not promoting LGBTQ. It is not advocating for LGBTQ. It is discussing the merits and demerits of it. That is the same way, Aisha, as Joy. Take, for example, if I was an extreme religious fanatic who believed in carrying out a holy crusade or a jihad to kill other people who don't believe in my extreme religious beliefs, that is my belief. You will not give me a platform to come and advocate or promote it. However, you will call experts in that field to discuss religious fanaticism. You are not advocating for it. That's why I said that this, you in the media and they themselves have called themselves acclaimed and renowned academics. They should put their academic work to bear on the document they have prepared. But what they have prepared, it has no academic value to it.
Definitely. This is something. This is something we'll be monitoring as this has been submitted to the Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament, and definitely will update our viewers on how things will pan. But let me also correct this, Mr. Sam George. Jihad doesn't mean killing people who do not believe in Islam. I want to thank you so much. Professor Kakari is a member of the group calling itself the Coalition of Citizens Concerned about Imminent Threat to Democracy and Human Rights. And on the other hand, Sam George, who is a member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, an initiator of the LGBTQ bill currently in Parliament.